Ooh, I'm live. Looks like nobody's quite in the building. I'm on much later than I thought I was going to be on. I was making two special videos. One, of course, about what's going on in the country, and they're wanting to change the national anthem to Imagine. Of course, you can imagine what I'm thinking when every time I hear that song. It's a beautiful song. It's a very pretty song, but it's about communism. It's about Marxism. And changing it to that song, realistically, it's a song about atheism. No God, of course. And the real problem with that song is that once you make that your national anthem and you tear the system down, good for you, you've eliminated your civil rights. The Bill of Rights, which you want to tear down, you want to take away the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. See, a Bill of Rights means that your rights are given to you by your Creator, that a man can't take it away. So a president, a king, a dictator can't take it away. God has given it to you. So when you make a godless system where there are no creators, or there is no creator, you've eliminated your civil rights. So you think that you've got this right to protest. Well, you do have a right to protest, and the Bill of Rights gives you a right to peacefully protest, not commit arson, felony, beat people up, kill people. That's all against the law, and that's not in your rights. And of course, you cannot arm yourself to protect yourself. The entire list of rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, will all be dependent on if your dictator on a whim decides if you can have those rights, if you have those rights that day. Because if you've read Orwell at all, he's talking about Marxism. And in any communist country, what happens is they get up in the morning and they literally change the rules for that day. So you think you're following the rules. Remember, you have no rights. Your rights, if you have a right, the dictator gives it to you one day. You exercise that right. And what happens in those countries is the dictator will say, you don't have that right. Well, I didn't tell you, but I eliminated it. That's exactly the recipe for domestic abuse. If you know anybody who's been an abused child, abused partner, or bullied in a schoolyard, that's what bullies do. There's the bully, and then everybody congregates around the bully. And the bully decides every day who gets beat up, who doesn't, whose lunch money they're going to take, or just steal anything from you, because the bully decides what the truth is. And if you're an abused child or partner in an abused situation, you think you're following the rules, but the rules change on a dime. You think you're being good. Oh, you're eating too much. And then the next day, oh, I hardly had anything today. I just had 1 cup of hot cocoa. Well, I can feel that you're getting fat. Stuff like that happens. And you think you're going to be rewarded for self-abuse by doing what the bully tells you to do, the dictator tells you to do. You're going to be rewarded for not eating because they don't like it when you eat, because every time they turn around, you're putting something in your mouth. But instead, the bully will probably say nothing. Either will tell you that you're still getting fat, or will say nothing, because you're desperate for the bully, the dictator, to pat you on the head that you've done something good. But even if you are a good communist, a good little Marxist, they still will kill you. They will kill you in a way that the other people will know that you've been killed. Why do they do this? It's to make sure everyone else stays in submission to the dictator. It's basically slicing off your humanity layer by layer until you're nothing, you're just a shell. When they're pulling down all these statues and they're destroying things that we love, well, wait a second, he emancipated the slaves. And there's another one that was sending children, before being emancipated, sending Black children to school and giving them gifts and helping them out. They're tearing their statues down too. The reason is it doesn't make any sense. Well, they were good to Black people, or they were friends with Black people, or they were friends of the Native Americans. Why are you tearing those statues down? It's what they do in all communist countries. Everything is torn down because there is nothing good. The only thing that's good is what the dictator decides. There's nothing before the dictator. Like Lenin. Remember Lenin? I don't know if you guys remember Lenin. Well, when he died, see, they pulled down all the statues that represented the history of Russia, and also sacred statues, Jesus, Mary, anything like that. Everything was taken down. And once you do that, you take away the hope of the people. There's nothing left to live for. There's no history. There's no patriotism, that you feel fervor for your country and you'll fight and die for your country. Everything is stripped away. So little by little, it's like the flesh is being stripped off of your bones. And the more it's stripped, you realize you don't even have a soul anymore. That's what happens. But what they do is they erect these horrible statues of these communist leaders, which are so void of soul and heart. And they took Lenin when he died. They say that religion is bad and, God is bad. But what they did was they made gods out of all these dictators. Lenin was embalmed, and they kept every single day, they kept going in and they kept putting new liquid into him and keeping him nice and fresh. So the people, when they funneled into this building, it was like a church. They could go around see Lenin inside this glass casket and pay homage to him as if he was a god. So even though it's atheistic, they still make you worship these dictators. That's why these people, these leaders of these groups, I won't name them, they desire to have that kind of power. The only way they can have it is if they take it away from something else. You destroy something. You destroy someone's religion. And so there's something empty. And so they're the God that fills it. And the only history that you know is the history that they make up. So you're never looking back, and you're never reading what precipitated these events. And you'll never know, neither will you be taught, how the country fell or how to build the country back up again. You'll only know what the dictator tells you to do. So I was looking at I'll have you listen just a second. This guy has got a PhD, he's from Jamaica. He wrote a book that says, "We Have Overcome." So it sounds like it's very, listen to what he says. Okay.
And peaceful protesters who have been a part of this
Can you see him?
I think we need to analytically and ethically distinguish those protesters who are peacefully registering for whatever reason, whatever grievances they might have against the state or the various institutions, from the nihilistic looting and vandalism and rioting, which I find very, very problematic, which is a sort of indiscriminate wholesale destruction of private property, and just as horrific the targeting of innocent people for no wrong that they have committed, the toppling of historic monuments in situations where the only criterion is the racial identity of individuals represented by the monuments or the statues. So when we see a situation where white abolitionists and white emancipators of Black freedom are targeted, those statues represented by the individual, the individuals represented by those images, are targeted with equal and indiscriminate virulence as are slaveholders and defenders of slavery. There's something really wrong going on here. There's a kind of cognitive dissonance taking place, a kind of conceptual breakdown, I call it, a kind of moral relativism that's run amok, and a kind of subjectivism, the idea that one's personal feelings are what arbitrate among truth claims and determines the truth. And I think that this is what I want to really briefly, in the next, I'm not even going to take 10 minutes to talk about this. We have a case in Boston where I think tomorrow the statue of our great late president, Abraham Lincoln, is being taken down. This is a president who freed the slaves, who fought a civil war and died for it, by the way, right? We have a case where Admiral David Farragut, who went against the separatists in Tennessee and joined the Union, is being attacked. We have a case where Matthias Baldwin, who championed a white abolitionist who championed Black voting rights and paid for the education of Black children before the Civil War and paid for teachers out of his own pocket, is being attacked. We have a case where the 54th Regiment in Massachusetts, the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, which is an all-black Union regiment, is being attacked also. All of these symbols are being attacked. And I had to ask myself, well, what is the ideology behind this kind of movement? And I've been a teacher of philosophy for 24 years, but I've been studying philosophy. I'm 55, so I've been studying philosophy since I was 15. It's postmodernism, which is a virulent, anti-conceptual, anti-reason ideology that developed in Europe and was imported to America in the 20th century, which is an attack against reason, the idea that there is no objective reality to appeal to. There are no universal truths that one can appeal to arbitrate among disputing truth claims. That an appeal to universal reason and logic that they're not as invariable as are the laws of nature, but that they vary according to individual racial or ethnic groups or personal perspectives or experiences. And so one of the things that the Enlightenment taught us was that reason is a faculty that is equally endowed among all human beings. How we use it is up to us. We don't all equally use our rational faculty. Some of us exploit it, some of us don't use it at all. But human experience in the natural world or in social life is accessible to all human beings equally. The Enlightenment did not particularize reason and said that you have a particular reason that's different from my reason. Just like how we all have stomachs that digest foods differently, but the stomach serves the purpose of processing food. The lungs serve a universal process.
These people you cannot reason with. You cannot have a discussion like so he's talking about the 51st Regiment, which was Black Union soldiers that fought for freedom in the Civil War, who fought against slavery. They want to destroy them too. Not just a president that was assassinated because he freed the slaves. You see, it's about removing all history. It's not about Black Lives Matters. It's not about minorities' lives matters or people of a certain skin tone lives matter. It's not about it at all. This is entirely about Marxism. It's entirely about communism. That's why I started this channel. and that's why I've got my trailer, which you might have seen, is a video about what destroyed, how were our young people, how were they destroyed? And it started in schools when they stopped teaching civics. They don't teach civics. They don't teach the Constitution nor the Bill of Rights. And the preamble to the Constitution is the mandate of our nation. So they don't understand what they have. They don't understand the difference between America and these other countries that dare you go out and even protest against slavery that's happening in this all over the world. 43 million slaves that we know of, all in non-white, non-Christian countries, by the way. Dare you go out there and say anything about freeing those slaves, they'll kill you on the spot. And nobody will stand up and say, oh, no, this is wrong. Slavery is wrong. Well, what you did is wrong by killing them. No, it's just like, yeah, in Saudi Arabia, they have beheadings every Friday night. That's kind of like how that's entertainment for the people, is beheadings. But in Africa, they've got tribes, Black African tribes, that are committing genocide against other Black African tribes. It's not okay that they're the same race, but you see, they see each other as different because it's different tribes. To them, it's just as different as two different ethnicities and two different melanin content. It's people with melanin, the high or low melanin content. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. The idea of race is so ridiculous. It's made up. It's not even real. And in fact, the root of all this, you ever read Charles Darwin? He is quite racist, and he believes that the Africans are behind the white people, and they need a chance to catch up. So even by ascribing to evolution or touting Darwinism, that's quite racist. Most people don't even know this, how racist that is. So that begins with the end of God. Got your evolution. You're describing that the world was created just by small changes, small evolutionary changes over time, sometimes big changes. They still can't figure out the Cambrian explosion, which was a sudden explosion of all different forms of life at once, with nothing before and nothing after. Like there was there's so many millions of creatures. Just take one of them. There wasn't anything before it. It popped. Literally, the Cambrian explosion popped into existence. There's no explanation for it at all. It's just as if God decided, I'm going to make a bunch of really crazy looking creatures. And that's what he did, essentially. So that goes hand in hand with, you see, these people who want Marxism, and then they take on atheism. And then to do that, then you believe in evolution. So your group needs to be called something other than Black Lives Matter, because the guy where you're getting this information from was a white supremacist, which I don't believe that there are many white supremacists in this world. I don't know of any. I've always disliked them immensely. If Trump was a white supremacist, I would hate him with the white-hot intensity of 1,000 suns or 10,000 suns. And I can say that again. I would hate him with the burning white-hot intensity of 100,000 suns. How about that? That's how much I would hate him if I thought he was racist in any way, shape, or form. So they're holding on to this idea. You see, the Russians thought that they were superior, communism. Fidel Castro hates all the Black people in Cuba. They're all in prison. and the Damos de Blancos. The Damos de Blancos are called the women in white, and their husbands and brothers and sons have been thrown in jail simply because of the color of their skin. Damos de Blancos are Black women who dress in white. And good old Barack Obama, went to visit Cuba because it's the great place. It's the place where Colin Kaepernick is just the fairyland of Colin Kaepernick, where he wears Che Guevara t-shirts, who killed all the homosexuals and Black people. And he has Fidel Castro socks, who hates the Black people and imprisons them. Well, before they got off the plane, or they were dressed up in this fantastic wardrobe. Michelle got this beautiful new wardrobe, and the girls did, and they're all shining in white. Well, the Damos de Blancos came out, and they were protesting in the streets because they said, oh, a Black president is coming, and we're Black. Maybe he will hear our cause. Maybe he will help set our husbands and fathers and sons free. Well, they got off the plane, and then they had some ice cream cones. Oh, wait a second, something happened right before they got off the plane. Of course, then they sat in the baseball game and ate ice cream and watched the baseball game. But before they got off the plane, Castro had to get rid of these women because that would not be pleasant for them to start chanting in the streets saying, he's imprisoning all the Black Cubans. They hate Black Cubans. Saying stuff like that. Please free our Black husbands and fathers and sons. That would be an embarrassment to the Castro brothers. I hope Colin Kaepernick is listening. Well, what he did, the Damos de Blancos, all dressed in white, women in white, they beat them to a pulp so bad that their white shirts and dresses were all bloody red. Okay. See, and I was infuriated when I looked at the news, and that Colin Kaepernick gets up and he thinks of, like, what is it that is most beloved? You see, whatever he can pick out that is most beloved in this country, that many millions and millions of people just love, like the 4th of July, right? Whatever it is, all he has to do is say, it's white supremacy. And then all the newspapers come, and he's on the news, and then all of a sudden, all the corporations bow down to him as if he's some kind of god, because he's decided, because that's how he gets attention. He thinks, who can I rip the heart out of, knowing that I'm not only going to get attention, I'm going to get more millions of dollars. Was it Nike gives him $100 million every time he opens up his stupid, uneducated mouth? He's stupid, uneducated mouth. Oh, go down to Cuba. Of course he treated Obama well. You wonder why? It's because we are the superpower. Obama's got all the money. You have to be nice to the people who have all the money, so then they can get money and trade, and Cuba can be more prosperous. So of course it's not that they're nice to Black people. They're nice to Black people with money, just like in this country. There were 10,000 Black slaves. 10,000 Black slaves owned by other Blacks, freed Blacks. The first Black slave in this country was owned by an Black African, named Anthony Johnson. The first one. And he was born free in the Florida area in this country for this 1619 crap. Okay? So there were 10,000 Black slaves owned by exclusive, and they weren't treating them nice. No. They were treating them just like everybody else. See, it's about, you think this would appeal to Marxists? Because Marxism always says it's about class, but now they've turned it into melanin content. But that I would say that that's a class system, because it's really not about blacks against whites. It's a class system. And then, of course, the KKK went out when they killed 4,699 by lynching people. I want to say people, because 1/3 of those were white. So it wasn't about skin color. It wasn't about skin color. It's just that the white ones were white Republicans, which his name Sean King, who looks pretty white to me, but he must be part something. See, as long as they cry racist first, that's their game. Cry racist first. If I could do this, make it look okay. As long as you cry racist first, then I don't like it. Then you're not a racist, which is baloney. But no, it's class system. And you see, that's what America was founded on. No classes. You see, the land that we came from, this NFL players, when they first were taking the knee, they went over to England and they played the English national anthem and they stood up for it. The players that take a knee in this country, I won't go any further on that one. And then when they played the American national anthem, they took the knee. Oh, well, very interesting, because, let's see, weren't the English colonizers, and didn't they also take African slaves that were sold to them by other Black Africans who won the war? They go to war, and then the one that wins brings the entire tribe to the coast. It's a genocide. And it's still happening today, except they're just killing people outright. They take them to the coast and they sell them to the world. So England participated in that. And part of the reason why we won the revolution, do you know what the reason why we won that? And because their military skills were a lot better than ours, and they had a lot better equipment than ours. But we went to war because they were about to take our guns away, and that's it. They were going to make us. We were getting too independent, and they wanted to. It sounds like they were going to make us into some kind of communist country or fascist country without guns. But what happened was they were so obsessed about getting more and more slaves. See, the slaves were dying off really fast in the Caribbean. So they kept going to Africa to get more slaves. So their manpower was put into getting more slaves because they were dying off from all these diseases. Well, America got 500,000 and South America got 9,500,000. I don't understand why don't you, Black Lives Matter, go to frickin' South America? Go to South America on Columbus Day, and you're going to find they're going to be celebrating Columbus, and they're going to celebrate the Spanish conquistadors. That's what they do, because they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for them. And there would still be human sacrifice going on and slavery. Lots of slavery up and down everywhere. Everybody had slaves. People, you can't help but go along with, of course, Black Lives Matter. Of course they do. You can't say no. But it's not. It's straight out Marxism. But when you use the term matter, something matters, which means something else doesn't matter. You've changed it to being negotiable. It's no longer, life is no longer intrinsic and sacred and a gift from God and owned by God. It's negotiable. So I wonder, okay, greetings. Hello there, Bruce. You were the first one. Inalienable rights, that's right, which if we have Imagine as our national anthem, we won't have any rights, because it talks about all these people living for today. Remember, no God above, which means nobody has any rights, no borders, no right. It's globalism. It is the patchwork of globalism. And funny, John Lennon, he was a real, he wasn't really that peaceful person. He used to beat up women all the time. His mother and he had a strange relationship. I mean, it was like on the edge of, you know what I mean? And he beat up all his girlfriends, and he beat up his first wife. I don't know if he beat Yoko. I don't know if she'd put up with that. Maybe he got what he deserved. But he looked back in about 1980, right before he died. He wrote a bunch of letters. And in it, he said, you know who I really like? First, he said, looking back at myself, I was a punk. I didn't know what I was doing, saying all this stuff and writing Imagine. What a bunch of bunk. I've matured so much now, and I realize what a punk I was, and how much I didn't know anything. And he goes, you know who I like? I like this Ronald Reagan. I like him. So these people want to change the national anthem to something that a guy who was beating up women and didn't know much, but was pretty much a punk. Really, they said he was a really nasty person. He was just a mean, nasty person. They want this guy as the composer. Because he, you know, the song American Pie, it goes, Lenin read a book on Marx. It's a play on words, because Lenin, you know, ruler of, that they have in bomb for all time, because he's kind of like a god, a communist god. But John Lennon read a book on Marxism. And that's where, and after that, he wrote Imagine. Imagine is, for years, I know it's a beautiful song. People play it for me. It's a beautiful, I admit, it's a beautiful song. And my father goes, and he's crying. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? It's like, Dad, it's about Marx. It goes right through his head. He just like doesn't get it. But that same man grew up. And I bet Yoko had a lot to do with it. I doubt he laid a hand on her. I doubt it. But he admitted that he knew nothing when he wrote that, and that he liked Ronald Reagan. So there's an eye-opener for you that they don't put through. They don't talk too much about that on the news, do they? Or Black Lives Matter or Antifa. None of them know about history. That's the problem. None of them do. Right, what else have we got here? Jesse J, you're right. They have a completely different mindset and way of being. Absolutely right. Anthony, great point. Evolutionists are racist. Absolutely, it's the truth. Sherlock Rat US, what if Trump was pro-white? I think Trump is pro everything. I mean, it's like, I don't think it doesn't, the color of your skin doesn't matter because it's melanin content. And the only reason why we have this particular shade is because our ancestors lived a certain proximity, X number of miles proximity away from the sun. If you live, the further away from the equator you lived, your skin had to be as light as possible to allow as much UV rays in, because your body could not produce vitamin D. If you didn't produce vitamin D, it creates birth defects, your bones get weak, your teeth are weak, and also it contributes to a lot of diseases. So if you lived near the equator and your skin had to be darker because you were very close to the sun, it was very hot, it means you got too much UV rays. You had to have just a certain amount. That's amazing how the body figured that out. I just, somehow the body itself is smarter. We couldn't figure that out. There's something in there that's working, that's making all of our body systems work perfectly. And we have no idea. It's killing infections, it's healing us, it's renewing us, it's digesting our food. The brain is doing whatever the heck it's doing. And we're clueless on everything that's going on. And the body is, okay, you live here, so your skin will be this shade because you need to let in a certain amount of UV rays in to produce vitamin D. That's all it is. It's so ridiculous. There is no race. There's only one race. It's called the human race. Only one. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to procreate. We're all human beings, and we would not be able to procreate. And in all melanin shades and ethnicities, you have very smart people, you have medium smart people, regular smart people, and then some not so smart. And all of them, all over the world, you're going to find that. You take a baby born in one country, and then you can bring it and stick it in a family somewhere else in the world, and they get a different education, and everything is different. Everything except possibly their skin color, because that takes millions and millions of years to change over and for the melanin to produce. Even eye color changed, because even the darker eyes, shades of eyes, also let in a certain amount of UV in. Everything is designed for, so we survive on this planet, though we haven't figured out how to adapt to the cold. You know, it's like we're really not supposed to be living in cold climates. I think that's stupid. Okay, so Jessie J, I wish I could stay, but I watch right now, and I'll watch the reply. Okay, thank you, Jessie J. Thank you for popping in, and when you pop again later, thank you. Anthony, unfortunately, Paul think Trump. Oh, people. The writing on this very small Chromebook is very, very, very small. Unfortunately, people think Trump is the worst person in the world. Now, those people really, they call him Hitler. They don't know Hitler. They don't know Goering and Goebbels and Himmler. They don't know Lenin, Marx, Mao, Pol Pot. What was it? Genghis Khan. He wasn't very nice. Idi Amin. Anybody remember Idi Amin? Any of the other terrorists that have blown things up, go around blowing things up. Joseph Frizzell, who kept his daughter in the basement for 24 years. She had 8 of his children. He raped her every day. And one of the kids died down there, and he never removed it. The kids had to live with the rotting body of their... and they had to live on feces and urine and mold and all that stuff for 24 years. And, oh yeah, she was white. So sometimes people can be slaves and they can be white, and they can suffer and they can be white. So Joseph Frizzell, I think, is pretty darn bad. He's another German. How about that? Oh, maybe there's something. And you got his Aunt Merkel, who looks like Stalin's housekeeper. Oh my God. And she's still there, isn't she? She's afraid of somebody. She's following somebody's rules, as far as I'm concerned. So let's see. Texas Shepherd, glad you're feeling better. Never got a notification, by the way, but I'm here. I know I'm still, what I do is I go to the community page and I'll put it there. But when I'm about to film, it just kind of like, it's like you have to do it immediately. I don't know. I haven't figured this out yet. So I'm sure there's a way that I can do notifications better. So, hi, Amy Joyce. Haven't seen you in ages. Good to see you again. But anyway, I hope people around here, a lot of people went away because this is a really low state. And I guess they got to a point, these are the same people who were afraid of the COVID thing. And then all of a sudden they're going to other states to be in picnics and parties with other people with no masks because they want to celebrate. I think people are getting to a point where they realize that this is a bunch of baloney. And I heard that there was fireworks going off last night, and I couldn't find it. And I couldn't walk too far because I broke my toe, and then I smashed it 2 more times. Once trying to get ice out of the fridge to help heal the toe, and then again on the same leg of the chair, I smashed it again. So things are not going that well. So I heard the fireworks, but I haven't seen fireworks for maybe 20 years. It's been a long time. I always say if I get a boyfriend, I say, can we go see the fireworks? And somehow the guys that I have dated, they never want to go see fireworks. I don't know why. It's like, just, can we? You know, even if we drive by and I stick my head out the window, and not asking for much really. But nevertheless, I did a video about, and you see, so why is she talking about the full moon and crap like that, right? Here's the thing about the full moon. Here's the thing about anything in the skies, all right? If you are Christian, and of course the prophets did go to seers and stuff, you will see that in the Old Testament. They always did. But if you're Christian, do you remember Christmas and you remember the Magi? They were following a star. They was following something in the sky. And they said that when there's a great labor in the heavens, it always has its counterpart on earth. So it's, as long as a strong, all that stuff, it can't be your God. It's not your God, but it's a sign. It's like everything is, if you believe in God, everything is created by God. And Jesus says, why can't you not read the signs of the times? You can read the signs of the weather and things that are going to happen. And when the sun is red at night, that it's going to be a hot day the next day. These signs in the sky are signs of nature, you know. And there are ways, they say that the Star of Bethlehem, see, in that particular video, I explain about the Magi and the Star of Bethlehem, except what happened was the microphone had a funny noise. And so the stuff that I forgot to plug the microphone in turned out better. So that this part about the Magi, which is pretty important. See, in the year, they believe it was in the year 6 BC, on April 17th, that Jesus was probably born, or this particular thing happened in the sky. And they believe it was a constellation. And the interesting thing is that April 17th is the spring rather than the winter. The shepherds were not out at night during the wintertime with the sheep, but in the springtime. So of course he was born in the spring. And it was the combination, the Magi followed it because it was the combination of planets. There was the sun, the moon, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury, which all put together, you have priest and king and savior. And they knew it. That's the reason why they followed it. And, oh yes, it was in the constellation of Aries, which is Judea, which means he will be born in Judea. So that's looking at these events that happen in the sky. I remember we had a blood moon a few years ago, and everybody was all scared about, I think, a blood moon and an eclipse. Everybody was really, and the blood moon looked really weird. And I said to myself, you know, I'm going to pray that the blood moon and the eclipse mean an end to bloodshed. I'm going to use this time to meditate instead of being scared, because peoples of the ages always looked up at the sky because there was no light pollution. That's the reason why they could see so much going on. And they were able to read the seasons. Or they were able to predict things because they could see everything. So I thought to myself, I'm not going to be afraid of a blood moon. It's an omen of badness. I'm going to say this blood moon will be the end of bloodshed. Violence will decrease in the world. So with the moon, the lunar eclipse the other night, and all this looting and burning and destroying of America, which is killing us. Every time they pull a statue down, it's like, what are you doing this for? I mean, this man freed the slaves, or these people helped, brought Booker, it was Teddy Roosevelt, Booker T. Washington, he brought right into his administration. He was a freed slave. He started Tuskegee University, the first university for freed black slaves. George Washington Carver was a botanist. He was also a free slave. He had to be a professor. He was a genius. He used to bring his classes to the dump because they couldn't afford a lab. So they would find glass bottles and wire and iron rods, and they manufactured a biology lab. That's how smart this guy was. Well, anyway, Teddy Roosevelt invited these people into his administration, and Native Americans, and was the first ecologist to preserve land and keep it wild. And now it was an idiot, is that Colin Kaepernick? Oh, that's white supremacy. These national parks is white supremacy. How can that be white supremacy? Keeping these parks wild and beautiful is, the Native Americans like that, first of all, because it's being kept the way it was when they had it, and they can still go on it. And whatchamacallit. Of course, there's no statue of Nixon, though Nixon was the one who went to every single Native American tribe and said, I can't give you all your land back, but tell me what your land was, and I will give you back as much land as possible. And if you ask a Native American who's the best president that America ever had, they say Richard Nixon because of that. So, these these people, these groups, I don't even want to mention their name. These groups are so ignorant. It's unbelievable. Preserving land, I thought that was climate and ecology and loving the earth. No, it's what? How can that possibly be white supremacy? Nobody owns the land. The land is there for everyone to enjoy. That's the point. All of us own it. That's the point. Nobody can build on it because nobody can claim it because it's all our land. Now, how can the 4th of July be white supremacist? What's his face? Colin Kaepernick. No, you're just saying that to shock us and to keep us petrified that you're going to take that away too. Well, this is the birth of, and that's why another thing, the moon was the birth. It means birth and rebirth. So the whole idea with the eclipse, let it be on the birth anniversary of the birth of America, let it be that the eclipse, when the eclipse come, pray during that time. Don't be afraid of the dark. And pray that the violence, there's the eclipse, the light is shut out on the violence. That if you can't see in front of your face, then there's nothing you can destroy. There's nothing you can hate. Let during that time, just gather together, everybody pray at that time. And then when the light comes back, let that be a rebirth, that something good is going to happen. We're going to be better than we were. But the whole point of this nation, when this nation was founded, they said, look, slavery doesn't belong in America. When they got together and they started figuring all this stuff out, how the country was going to be run, they said slavery was right on the docket. It had no place in America. But the southern states wanted to keep the Democrats wanted to keep slavery. So they said, the North said, look, we give you 20 years to get rid of it. Well, of course they didn't. That's why we had to fight a civil war. That's why nearly 700,000, mostly white souls died, including that black regiment. I don't think all of them died, though, thank God. But still, they're going to take them down too because they fought for the freedom of slaves? Do you know how retarded these groups are? Doesn't it baffle you how retarded these groups are? It doesn't make any sense. It's like, it sounds to me that you hate Black people. You hate the fact that they have freedom. You hate the fact that we went to war and most of us died. Most of the people in America died in that Civil War. It was horrendous. There's bodies and blood and limbs were cut off. Even those that survived lost arms and legs, and there was no anesthesia. They literally, you drank some whiskey and then they cut your leg or your arm off. That's how they did it. These people suffered in a way Antifa and BLM and all the rest of them never will. Doesn't matter the color of your skin. Things are not like that today. And if they are like that, it's because you're in the streets and you're destroying Black-owned businesses, by the way, and you're white-owned and Black-owned businesses. I can't figure that out, but I can figure it out. It's because it's destroying the American dream. They don't want anybody to have the American dream. And if you are Black and you are contributing to America and you are moving up in the world, see, that's where America was different, because we had a middle class. The middle class is a springboard. You can go from being poor to middle class. And once you're in the middle class and you work, get your own business, invent something, that's a springboard to the top, to higher wealth. So people who are African American and minorities have that chance. But anybody who participates in this, they burn, they loot, they destroy, and they burn, and they beat you up, because they do not want you to participate. They want to show you how capitalism has failed. Just the same reason why FDR, who is in love with fascism, who got together this group called the Brain Trust and sent it over to Mussolini's Italy to figure out how fascism worked, because he was fascinated by it. Well, we had the Depression. He made it go on longer than it should have. He could have ended it. But we know now historically that it went on a lot longer than it should have. He did it on purpose so people would get disillusioned with capitalism. And that's what happened. That's why people went over to the Democrat Party. And then he wanted the New Deal signed. So he would provide jobs. The government would provide jobs for you. You see, you were no longer the entrepreneur. America wasn't the land of opportunity where you can be your own boss and you can work your way up. He said, no. I want the New Deal signed, because the New Deal means that the government is going to give you the job. So what happened was freed slaves who were Republican, because it was the Republicans who were abolitionists who abolished slavery. They reluctantly went over to the Democrat Party. That's when the African Americans went over to the Democrat Party, is because you made them suffer and people suffer for so long. They had to get a job. Even my family, my grandfather goes, oh, for the poor people, you got to vote for the Democrats. But my grandmother, when FDR said, not one son, America's son's blood will be shed on foreign soil. He promised the mothers of America. And then he got us into World War II. And the thing about it is, we know this now, the papers were on his desk that Japan was going to bomb Pearl Harbor. And I have cousins in the Peace Corps, Vista, who started in those things. They're like those intellectuals, professors. I've got lots of professors and doctors, and they're all damn Democrats too. But even they admit that FDR had the papers on his desk, and he knew that Pearl Harbor was going to get bombed. What he should have done was gotten all the men off, but he knew that if the men died, it would tear the heart out of the mothers of America. And America would say, all right, take my son and go fight. It's true. But it's true. World War II never would have ended had we not gotten into it. But that also got the women out of the house working in factories. And then when the men came back home, that's when it started. Women weren't home for their kids. And then the visas, immigration stopped. And in 1921, immigration stopped because the reason why it stopped is because we wanted everybody who came in to assimilate to the American culture. Not all this, everybody's fighting with each other, but everybody, that's why they say, immigrants built this country. Well, how they built this country was that they assimilated into the American culture. And even doesn't matter what country you came from, you really became an American. And your kids ended up going to college. And then what happened was immigration was closed until 1965. And that's when Ted Kennedy opened it back up again. And he offered HB1 visas, which means he opened it up. Basically, he said, he wanted the Irish to come over because he's Irish. He said, just the Irish. You know what he actually said? They're not going to come over from those other countries that are, and I won't even go, I'm even going to explain because, they wouldn't let Sammy Davis Jr. play at JFK's inauguration because he was black. Did you know that? Anyway, so he says, no, those other remember they got on Trump's, they say that he's called it a blank hole countries and how awful that was. Ted Kennedy gets on the Senate floor and basically says, no, it's going to be the Irish coming over. It's not going to be these other countries. Well, as it turned out, there were so many visas that were given out that when people from other countries came over, the minimum wage was depressed. We were actually moving upwards. The father, there's only one parent that needed to work, so the mother could be home when the kids came home and raised the kids. That was really important. That's when the country was kind of destroyed, when the mother went out to work. But what happened was wages were depressed. And then we have all these kids, minimum wage, or all these Marxists, minimum wages should be $15 an hour, should be $20 an hour. You know who started this? And bring in all the immigrants, bring everybody in from all these other countries. There's enough to. No, the reason why your wage is depressed, the reason why your parents aren't together and then they need separate jobs is because of the reopening of immigration, that these immigrants would work for a lot cheaper. And so it depressed all the wages. And so you could reopen immigration, but make sure you don't depress the wages. So what happened was they hired the immigrants rather than the American citizens. And then kids didn't have any summer jobs. They didn't get a work ethic. What happened was, the summer of love, the first jazz movement, the hippies. And so they just, took drugs and did they drink? It was mostly drugs, wasn't it? The communes and then Marxism sound good and Lenin read on. See how the whole thing happened? You see the progression of how America was destroyed a little at a time, and then the 60s came along, and these were the children of the parents who, the boomers, the baby boomers after the war, and then the women had a taste of working, and then the visas where the immigrants would work for less, and the kids had nothing to do. So when kids have nothing to do, they listen to music and take drugs. And the parents aren't together because both parents have to work because they're not earning enough. Whereas you could have a minimum wage job. You could have a minimum wage job and you could still have a family, an intact family, and send your kids to college. That's what happened. The wages got depressed. So this is how little all these groups that are destroying America, this is how little they know about what's going on. The fact that they hail Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, and they're racist. They're racist. Colin Kaepernick, one more thing. No, America was founded on ending slavery. Your Democrats, which Colin Kaepernick is, your Democrats are the ones that didn't want to end slavery, you idiot. That's it. 20 years, that's long enough. You start getting rid of slavery now. That's what happened. When we fought the revolution and we took the reins away from England, the country that was importing slaves. We took the reins until William Wilberforce actually was a white man helped abolish slavery in England, and the song Amazing Grace was written about that's about slavery, about realizing that it's wrong. But that's what America was founded on. They said, look, no, they didn't want to give up their slaves. They said, look, you've got 20 years to give it up. And they didn't, and they didn't, and they didn't, and they didn't. And they fought, and they fought, and they fought, and they fought. Did you know that in the North, the churches in the North, there were black preachers and would have a white congregation, and that blacks in the North could vote? There was a lot more, because it's the North. See, the KKK was in the North and in the South. So that threat was always around. But things were different in the North, and people don't, the only thing we know is the history of the South. And what people do is they paint the South as the entire country. Well, the reason why we didn't let Texas into the nation, because Texas was first belonged to Mexico. And the Emperor of Mexico, there was an emperor in Mexico, and what he wanted was he was inviting Americans to come and to settle in Texas. And the requirement was you have to be Catholic and you had to become a Mexican. And Mexicans, of course, lived there too. And they realized when they got there, they thought that they could build it up like the rest of America. When they got there, Mexico said, no, you can't build this up. We want to keep this frontier land. What we want you to do is we want you to keep the Comanches and the other Native Americans from settling in our country. Yes, you heard that right. The Mexicans are Native Americans. Well, you know what? They didn't consider themselves Native Americans. They didn't like Native Americans. And that's the reason why they wanted the Americans there, was to keep as a job. They didn't even pay them. They wanted to keep the Comanches and the other Native Americans off their land. So the people in Texas had enough of it, and they literally separated themselves. They fought a war with Mexico, and they gained their independence. They wanted to join America. But the reason why it took 10 years, and they say that, America, we just wanted to just keep taking this land. We wanted to take as much land as possible. But it took 10 years for America to let Texas into the Union. And the reason why is the North didn't want to add on another slave state. They didn't want the slave states to be more powerful than they were. So they wouldn't let them come in for 10 years. So there's another eye-opener for you. And I don't know if I mentioned this on any of my live streams, but for people who don't know, because this is American history and people they just don't know. I can't believe, it's the reason why is Howard Zinn. There's a book that I just ordered. Howard Zinn wrote this book, All These Lies About Christopher Columbus. And all these lies that are basically feeding our youth in school, why the schools are everybody's coming out a Marxist. It's because Barack Obama signed in this leftist Marxist agenda, and was written by Howard Zinn. Okay, so, they say, well, the slaves were not considered full human beings, according to America's documents. Well, actually, it's not true. And this is the reason why it's written the way it's written, is because if they were, we are not a democracy, we're a republic. And a republic represents the minorities. And if you, it depends on how many people you have in your state. We'll give you, and you're allowed another representative. So when you come to the Congress or the Senate, you will have more voices speaking for your state or your part of the country. So if you counted slaves as citizens, really not human beings, it's really citizens. If you counted them as full citizens of this nation, which they actually weren't, they certainly weren't being treated as such, it would mean that the South got more representatives. The South getting more representatives means when they come to Washington, they can overrule the North, and they can say, no civil war, slavery lasts forever. In fact, the whole country is going to have slavery. That's the reason why. It's not that they were full human beings, is that they did not want the South to have any more power than it did. It was to prevent and to end slavery. And most people, they read it, oh yeah, that's right. See, if you've got somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about, or they're trying to skew things in a certain direction, that's what these groups are doing, and that's why they're trying to destroy America. And you don't know the why, you'll say, oh, Roma, that is what it says. Oh, that's awful. America is racist. They don't know the other parts that I just told you. And so easy. All you have to do is leave certain parts out of the whole, and then you can buy anything anybody's selling. That's why it's so important to know history. And I'm shocked. I don't know, maybe my class was the last class that ever taught history. I have no idea. I don't know how I knew. Did I learn from television? Did I read the right books? Maybe I just gravitated towards the right things. I think that's probably what it is. School doesn't really teach you much. But anyway, let's see. Amy Joyce. 1964 book by the Labor Department. They researched and charted and sourced how to help the Black community, independent, strong, community-based opportunity. Most important was family structure. That's right. And what did they do? They gave them welfare. Oh, to get welfare, the father can't be in the home. And Black girls, it was only a 10% illegitimacy rate and a 30% in the white community. And they were working very hard, and they were going up. And they went to church every Sunday. And the girls were being told that, don't let a man touch you. A man must respect you. Don't let until he marries you, unless he vows himself to you. That's why it was only a 10% illegitimacy rate. And then bingo, welfare. They destroyed the whole Black community. And in fact, we could have learned from the Black community. Go to church every week, demand respect, don't let a man touch you. And also parents, it has a lot to do with parents saying, you deserve better. You deserve to be respected. It isn't that you are better because of your race or your ethnicity or what you know, is that you deserve it as a human being. You deserve to be respected. And in turn, you will create good children that will go off into the world, and the world will be a better place. It all starts at home. And then we send children out in the world and hopefully hook up with other children that are good too. And then they have children and they make this world a better place. But that isn't what happened. We know our country is on the brink. It's literally on the edge, slipping on a banana peel. That's where we are right now. That's why I say, the Magi said, when there's a great labor in the heavens, it always has its counterpart on earth. That's what the Magi said. knowing that there was going to be a priest and king to be born underneath that, which they say is a constellation. And the interesting thing about that is that it never occurred before in history. They have on the computer, you can go back in time and see every single constellation that ever was. They know that it's never occurred before 6 BC, and it will never occur again. So let's read some more. So it's saying that a great labor in the heavens, an eclipse, native, what do you call it? People who many thousands of years ago used to be afraid of the eclipse. Of course, hey, the sun's eclipsing, the moon's eclipsing. People got scared. But I'm saying, let's pray during the eclipse that this put an end to this violence and this craziness in the streets and this, call it ignorance, this ignorance of history and ignorance of the truth. And when the light comes back, the eclipse ends, then the light will bring reason and truth and peace. It's just a thought. That's how I know LBJ and friends made the Welfare Act on. They did. They said that once we pass this, we're going to get those voting for us forever. That he used to hold cabinet meetings on the toilet. As he was crapping on the toilet. And he used to, when the women were leaving the Department of Justice, back then they called them legal secretaries. Now they're like paralegals. He'd say, "When are the women coming out?" Then he would whip it out and pee on a tire on a car when the women were walking by. That's how miserable this guy was. Oh my God. Let's see. Shillbilly, the lowest common denominator taught by schools. White man bad. That's right. Hey, never let the truth get in the way of a good story, right? That's true. That's true. And they're all stories. They're all freaking fantasies. Bruce O'Brien, knowledge is power. That's right. That's right. I'm teaching you knowledge. Hopefully I'm teaching you things that you don't know yet. Or even if you know them, it's good to be reminded. Somebody, oh yeah, I know that. I forgot about that. And then just go out and teach it. We really need as many people go out and repeat whatever I'm saying, or learn as much as you possibly can, because the truth will set us free, and we need to be free. Okay, cock fennership. I've been at DEF CON 487 ever since BLM threatened a riot in my town a month ago. Thousands of armed citizens showed up, lining the downtown streets with more rifles than I've ever seen in a war movie. Sometimes that's all you do. I heard that went from all the riots and burning down buildings, and then they went into a Republican neighborhood. They went to the suburbs. They thought that they could just take and intimidate all these right-wing people, and everybody walked out of their houses and stood in their front door, and they had their gun, but it was strapped on, just in sight. And the rioters turned around and walked away. So it just showed that, look, we're not going to take your BS. We're just not going to take it. We're going to retain our country. If they want to be prisoners, I'd be happy to give them a part of this country. I will wall it off, maybe stick dynamite in the border so it kind of like moves out like an island. And they can have their own part, but they can't get federal funds. They're not going to get our tax dollars. They can run it any way they want. They can have it Marxist, whatever. See how long that place lasts. But they can't come back into America. Once they've left, they can rule it any way they want to, but it's going to be walled off, and they can't come back into America. I think that's the only way. Personally, I'd like to do that to California as much as San Francisco is gone. It was a beautiful state. It's gone. We could make wine somewhere else. But even if I have to wall that state off and stick dynamite in the border and just push it out into the ocean, they can have that as far as I'm concerned. How about that? let's see. Billy, the shit is about to hit the fan. The fit is about to hit the shan. And Amy Joy says, good for you, CF. And okay, Kaka finish it. Shilly Billy actually sitting here working on my body armor and Meg pouch layout all night. See if, as we used to say in the Scouts, be prepared. That's right. Absolutely right. Okay, I don't mean to sound like an adolescent, but if we're going to have, it's so small, I got to get a bigger computer. Accelerationist, but if we're going to have a hot civil war, I wish they get the shooting started before I'm too old to fight it. Oh my God. Okay, Shilly Billy. CF, when you get too old to fight, take flight. Amy, I'm old, but I won't run. I will protect what is mine and support America's. I'm prepared for most emergencies, food, medicines, etc. That's right. Be prepared. Be a scout. Be prepared. That's right. Pray and be prepared. And when you leave the house, walk with a purpose. They say if you walk like a victim, people walk like a victim end up becoming victims because they can tell. Anybody who's a predator can tell who they can pick on and who they can't. They'll leave the ones alone, the ones they know who walk with the purpose. So you have to, even if your entire life you were told that you're not worth it, you maybe were abused your whole life. In school, they called you names. You have to live now as if kind of like you had different parents, you had different schoolmates, you had different brothers and sisters, ones that built you up. We can't pick our families. Sometimes we can't even pick our schoolmates either. But imagine if you could have picked your friends, who they'd be and what they'd say to you. Or if you imagine someone out there who is very successful and very strong, and imagine who their friends are and how their friends treat them. There's a certain amount of respect that they demand respect. There'll be people who will be very nice, but at the same time, if you cross the line, they'll say, no, you can't say that about my family, or you can't take advantage of me. They demand respect. So you've got to live as if you had different parents, a different family, a different life experience, because the only way the good, and I'm saying that you're good, and the good in America will survive, is if we do act like we are armed. I mean, whether we have a gun on us or not, like a pistol or whatever, we are armed with ourselves. We are armed with, we know who we are. We know who we are. And we don't go past, nobody can BS us, or no one will push us to cross a line that we will not cross. All these kids out there, these writers, they don't know who they are. Who are you? You're a writer. You can destroy things. Okay, but who are you? That's the problem. They don't know who they are. They were never taught who they are. They were never taught to respect. You must demand respect for yourself, and you respect other people, unless they're not respecting you. And you got to know the difference. Respect isn't give me all this stuff that I'm asking for, but just respect. Respect each other with good manners and kindness. And if people aren't giving you kindness or good manners, then you don't have any time to be with them. You don't have any time to waste with them. But that's the only way we're going to survive, is if we walk with a purpose and we know who we are and we demand respect and we walk like we are armed. No one can cross the line on us. So I've got a video that I'll probably upload tomorrow that I made tonight. And I've got a shorter video that's I call my a tribute to the 4th of July video. And you'll get a kick out of it. It's not going to be long at all, but it's kind of funny. I don't appear in it at all, except possibly my hand and a hairdryer. Okay, so anything else, Amy? Did you say ideology, principles, ties that bind? BLM funders want a race war, of course. So, well, thank you everyone for joining me, and this has been fun. I'm very happy. I've got to make those larger or get a bigger computer. This is a very small computer because I'd like to be able to read very easily. So Texas Shepherd, smash that like button, y'all. Thank you, Texas Shepherd. Oh, I know I'm racist. That's why I moved to one of the whitest places in the nation to avoid unnecessary friction and conflict. But these people won't leave us alone. It is hate. Hate. The only thing, they don't know who they are, but they know hate. But they don't even know what they're hating because they don't know us. But they hate us. That's all they know. For what? Do you know me? Do you know my whole life? Do you really know that I'm a racist? No. I mean, I wouldn't have voted for Trump. If I thought he had one iota, I wouldn't have. Well, I wouldn't have voted for Hillary either. I have to write in my own name because Jill Stein wasn't any better either. Oh my God. The people we had to vote for. I'm saying if Trump said that they are arresting a lot of these people, and now the desecration of the monuments. Now he's doing something. It looks like he wasn't doing anything. But the problem is that the states, if they don't allow you in, or the military, the generals were turning against him. No, you can't have the military come in, which is a lie because the president has used the military 12 times in our history. And if you're going to use the military or National Guard, it's definitely what's going on now. So it's a real coup what's going on. It's a real coup. It's us, it's the patriots, the American people, and a president who wants to do the right thing. But if these governors don't allow it, or even a mayor doesn't allow it, just like that, it's against the law to do, but they're doing it anyway in New Jersey, having those Chinese drones film everyone, and those drones send the information back to China. And then it says, oh, you're getting too close, social distancing. I mean, that is so Orwellian. But it was a mayor that approved that, not even the governor. See, that's what the country is, that's the way it was set up, that the states have their certain autonomy. See, the states are democratic. The country is republic. That's why we have an electoral system. If it was democracy is majority rule. If the majority wants slavery, the majority will have slavery. A republic has a representative for the minority. So the minority has a voice. So of the two groups, you would think that these people would pick the Republican Party because it's about a representative for the minorities. And democracy is majority rule. So I'm going to sign off. I'll just say smash. Was it say smash cuck? Thank you for your concern and wisdom. Thank you very much, Bruce. I'm so happy you joined me. I'm so happy all of you joined me. I wish it was earlier, but I made that video, a couple of videos before I came online. And the thing about this is that I can't upload it to BitChute. It's just YouTube. I wish I could stick it on BitChute. But anyway, I'm so happy you joined me, and I'll see you again soon. And I hope you check out my Independence Day video. It's going to be a short one. It's going to be, I think it's less than 10 minutes, but no more than 10 minutes. It's kind of funny. Okay. Good night, everyone. Time to end stream.